Hello and welcome to Rogue Artisans and Crafters, two-time winner of the Southern Oregon Television Awards for Best Arts and Culture Show. I'm your host, Glamour Dave Nienow. We welcome you, our viewer, to our new season of 2019 shows where we feature local artists and craftspeople here in Southern Oregon. And we talk to our featured artists about how they came to their art, what drives them as artists, find out stories behind their art process, and how their work as artists influences their lives. Today we explore the art of photography, and we have the privilege of featuring local fine nature photographer Julie Bonney. I discovered Julie Bonney while visiting Ashland Art Center, where Julie has her work on display. Julie creates unique nature images in her photography with a dream quality to them. And so today I am pleased to talk to Julie about her life as an artist and the work that she pursues today with her art. And so we welcome Julie to the show.
Thank you.
So Julie, again, I discovered your work at Ashland Art Center, and was really impressed with the style and uniqueness of the images that you create. So how long have you been doing your work as an artist, and what brought you to doing the work that you're doing today?
I've been hanging at Ashland Art Center in the Photographer's Gallery for 3 years.
Okay.
And I would say I probably really started to explore photography as an art form maybe 2008.
Okay.
So that's 10 years.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And in your, as you started pursuing photography, I mean, was it from the outset you kind of like landscape and nature work kind of like brought you in, or have you done like other things? And
No. I'd always been interested in photography, and I worked full-time, so it was something that I couldn't pursue until my husband he gave me a little nudge. And I had taken a weekend class here in Ashland years ago. I don't even remember how long ago. It was before the big flood of '97.
Okay. All right.
And I had a ball. I lost the class. We went to photograph in Lithia Park, and by the time I emerged from what I was doing, everybody else was gone. So I printed a few photographs from that, stuck them away, and then my husband found them, and he said, "Why aren't these framed, and why aren't these hanging on the wall?" Mm-hmm. And then he bought me a book of, I also bird.
Yeah, okay.
So he bought me a book of bird photography.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, oh God, these are gorgeous. Maybe I can do this. So I set out to possibly try and be a bird photographer or a wildlife photographer. Mm-hmm. And I obviously did not go in that direction. Yeah. So I also have a love for macro photography and flower photography. So I started pursuing courses online that I could participate in around a work schedule. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I'd dash out on the weekends to photograph for my homework and get it up online and get critiqued. And
And now the work that you do when you're photographing, are you dealing with just all local locations? Do you do a lot of traveling in your work?
Most of it is local.
Yeah.
I photograph with a couple of other friends, and one of them has school-aged children. Right. So we like to accommodate each other. Yeah. So we work around her life with 2 children and getting them to school and that kind of thing. So most of it's local. I have traveled as far as Iceland. Oh wow! To photograph.
Yeah, that's an exciting country to go and photograph. Because there's so much in terms of unique geography that is just unique to Iceland. So,
yeah, it's a pretty raw place.
Yeah,
that's the only word I can think to describe Iceland.
No, but
raw.
That's a great way to really describe it, because I've seen many documentaries about that country and what can be seen there. So. Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be an exciting travel adventure.
It was an exciting travel adventure. Yeah. So I've traveled to Bishop, California last fall. One of the things we managed to squeeze in on a day of photography is going to the redwoods down south
Oh,
of Crescent
yeah,
City.
right,
So
yeah.
we're insane and leave at 5 o'clock in the morning and
Yeah.
and get back in time for her to pick her kids up from school.
Oh, well, yeah.
So if it's within a 2 or 3 hour drive,
Yeah.
we can fit that in a day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you kind of like have zeroed in on what your current focus is there like, because I look at your images and they have a really dreamy, ethereal kind of a quality to them.
Thank you.
Right? And it just makes the images really gorgeous looking. They have, I see a little bit of kind of like a sepia kind of a feel in some of the images, so you kind of get that feel like old style kinds of photographic techniques. So what particular equipment and processes are you currently like using to develop your images?
Well, I use Canon gear, so I have a full frame.
I'm a
You
Canon,
must use Canon.
I'm a Canon shooter. I will admit that every time when photography is brought up, I am a Canon shooter. It's
Yeah.
just, it's something that us pro photographers, you know, we have our Canon camps, we have Nikon camps,
Right.
you know, yeah. And so we all have to give each other, you know, harass each other about our gear. So, you know.
Yeah. So so I have a full frame Canon DSLR.
Okay.
And then the lenses I primarily use are a 70 to 200.
Yeah, okay.
I like using a 180 macro.
Yeah.
And then I love using Lens Baby and other art type lenses.
See, that's, yeah, you know, I've yet to like invest in like Lens Baby gear, but certainly they are very famous for
Yeah.
the quality of the optics in their lens designs to really create unique kinds of stylistic images.
Yeah, they're great for selective focus, and
Yes.
I don't like photographs that are all in focus. I have to say, so you know, there will be those that I use
Yeah.
an f-stop of f16 or f22.
Right. Well, there's, you know, that kind of decision in terms of as a photographer interpreting a scene, trying to achieve a certain objective artistically, photographically. You know, we all have to make decisions about, you know, how, you know, does this project, does this scene need an exact sharp kind of an image, or do you need to, or are you trying to achieve something else? So, you know, we all go through our own processes to decide what our objectives are artistically / photographically. So yeah, I understand that. You know, it's like, you know, creating a whole bunch of images that are in total sharp focus can get kind of boring.
Well, yeah, and I think this image in front and the oak behind you,
Yeah.
those are, you know, shut way down,
Yeah.
f16 or f22, I can't remember. These are more selective
Yes.
by using a larger choice of aperture,
Right.
just to highlight certain things.
Yes.
And give, so the selective focus, I think, helps give an image a more dreamy look.
Yes.
And, but there are other things that you can do to
Yeah.
like that
So
as well.
is the majority of your imagery created totally in camera, or do you do a lot of post processing as well, if any, once you've done the initial image taking?
It depends on the image.
Right.
So, and that I try to include a lot so we could,
Yes.
different things so we could talk about that. So the hibiscus back here, that's actually a composite.
Okay.
So that's 2 images.
Yes.
Because I couldn't get the look I wanted
Yeah.
just by opening or closing down the
Right.
aperture. There was either too much in focus or not enough in
Yes.
focus. And I also had a piece of pink tulle wrapped around my lens hood
Okay.
in order to help hide some of the background,
Yes.
and also we call it fake shooting through or faux shooting through. So sometimes photographers will purposefully put foliage or something else right near the front of the lens.
Yes.
But the subject is behind that, so you end up blurring that foreground
Right.
in order to cast some veil or what
Yes.
what have you.
Uh-huh.
that has tulle around it, so
Okay.
pink bridal veil
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
And it's 2 images.
Okay. Well, we happen to have a group of images for a slideshow discussion that we can look at and talk about. So if the control room can bring up those images, we'll begin to talk about what some of these images are.
Okay.
And so let's begin with this image here.
So that's a little Indian paintbrush bud, and I used a Lens Baby Velvet 56.
Okay.
So it has a real dreamy quality to the lens anyway. It's, oh boy, it's open pretty wide.
Yeah.
And I also, on this, have employed the use of a texture. So
Okay.
it's a textured photograph that helps add some dimension and
Okay.
maybe hide some stuff in the background
Yeah,
that you don't
right.
want to see. So
Yeah,
that has a
okay.
texture on
All
it.
right. So let's go on to the next.
This is from a trip I took to Wyoming, not for photography, but I took my camera with me.
Yeah, of course.
I felt the photo was stronger as a black and white. It was a cloudy day, but again, here I added some textures to it as well, just to give the sky a little more drama.
Okay. And let's go on to the next.
Okay, this is a taken with a Petzval lens.
Okay.
So, and it's wide open. I think it's an f2.8 or 2, I can't recall. And it just, I love this lens. I borrowed the lens that I used for that photograph, and I ended up buying one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how to describe it. It gives the background a real painterly look.
Yes, exactly.
So I
yeah.
just kind of pumped some things up in Photoshop, but I
Right.
haven't really done much to that image.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's go on to the next.
That's also with the Petzval lens. You can really see what it does to the background in this photograph. So it just adds this swirl of stuff to it. And
yeah, so that's a really
again,
cool effect, and it's neat that it's coming through the lens.
Yeah, and that, again, that's wide open.
Yeah, okay. Let's go on to the next.
This was taken with the Lens Baby Velvet 56, and not much done to that image either. Just, some tonal balance and
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next.
This was done with a Lens Baby soft focus optic.
Okay,
And there is also a texture on it, because this was taken up on the trail up to the top of Upper Table Rock.
okay.
So I had some weeds in there I
Yeah.
had to hide.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go on to the next.
This is Pearsony Falls,
Okay,
up
yeah.
by Prospect.
Yeah, I've been up there before.
And this one, I was fooling around. One of the lessons we'd been given in a photography class I was taking online was, well, why don't you smear a little Vaseline
Yes,
around?
that's a classic.
Yeah, so this was actually chapstick. But I was out photographing and I went, well, we did it with flowers. What would it do to a landscape?
Yeah.
More of a landscape image. So that's chapstick on a cheap UV filter.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all right. Well, that's a beautiful image. So let's now, what about this here?
This one's from Iceland.
Okay.
And this has kind of, is this one I dropped my 70 to 200 lens while I was over there. So I was limited. I couldn't, at that point, use it. And I wasn't real confident in using my wide angle lens, but I had to put it on.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So then I had to look for something. I had to really look for a foreground, right?
Yeah.
With a wide angle lens, you have to be very conscientious of your foreground
That's
as well
right.
as your midground and your background.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that was learning how to use my wide angle lens.
All right, let's go on to the next. And
This is from the Del Norte Redwoods over
Okay.
south of Crescent City.
okay,
and I probably used my 70 to 200 on that one. I've used a little something that's called the Orton effect. So you take an image, it's kind of a composite image in a way. One image is blurred, and you lay it on top of the image that's not blurred,
Right.
and then adjust things. So this one I probably, with Photoshop, you can create masks.
Yes.
So this one I probably inverted my mask, and then I painted where I wanted that effect in, which was mostly in the bright grasses or whatever the ground cover is.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right. Let's go on to the next.
This is Crater Lake.
Okay. I'll take your word on that.
Socked in snow. So this one was so graphic. I just really pumped the whites up and pumped the blacks up and created as graphic an image as I could.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cool image for sure.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on to the next.
This was taken with the Lens Baby soft focus optic.
Okay.
Up at Swan Island, Dahlias. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So not much done to it. I made the whites whiter, and I didn't. With that lens, you don't have to do a lot of post processing either.
Okay. And is there another one? I believe or are we at the end? Oh, okay.
This one, this Forest Park in Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
So I have added a cloud texture of mine in addition to the clouds that were dispersing. I just kind of wanted to give it just a little more mysterious feel or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple more.
And this was out at Agate Lake.
Okay.
I have to admit to removing some of the birds.
And
there were a couple of buildings that were showing up in the background, so I took those out, but then there's, again, another texture laid on top of it to enhance the sky.
Right.
I don't use textures on every photograph, but if it enhances the image, I will.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tend to use them as subtly as I can.
Right, okay. And on to the next one.
That's also Iceland.
Okay.
And I was just enchanted with the light on the water and the sand there.
Yeah.
So a more conventional, probably my 70 to 200 on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that it? I think we're at the end. Oh, there's one more.
That one.
Yeah.
I took that from my car.
Oh, really?
I did. So my husband was driving, and this is out, in Spray, Oregon, or some place like that where they have all the wind farms. So I just got my camera out and just rolled my window down and let's see what kind of I think movement sometimes is just really cool looking in a photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all righty.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really great set of images. And, you're very much doing an artistic interpretation of your scenes. So, when you go in and post edit and, move little things out here and there, I mean, that's, as long as I think your audience understands that you're doing an artistic interpretation of the world, then, I find that perfectly fine. I do that too with some of the images I've done in the past and load up into Photoshop, and some little element is just like a total visual distraction to everything else, right? And
Border Patrol.
Yeah. So now you use Lens Baby lenses. I know that Lens Baby has several different lenses.
Oh my gosh.
And it seems like over the years they really have continued to expand on the number of available lens options from back in the day when I was really active with my own photography.
Yeah.
So how many particular Lens Baby lenses are you currently in your kit that you're using?
So I have what's called, it's a Composer Pro, and it takes different optics.
Yes.
So you can pop the optics in and out.
Right.
So I have several different optics. I tend to use the soft focus the most.
And isn't that the one that it kind of has like a flexible head to it a bit, so it's
A
kind of
little bit,
movable?
yeah. So Lens Baby started out with stuff that you squeezed with your hands, and I didn't do that bit. The Composer Pro has a ring that you loosen, and then
Yeah.
you can move it and tilt it.
Right, yes.
So, so you can put that, what they call the sweet spot of focus, right where you want it, and then let everything else dissolve into blur.
Yeah.
So I have the Composer Pro with optics that I can swap out. I have a Velvet 56, which just gives this real soft, it's different than the soft focus optic in a way, just a real soft, dreamy quality to the image. And then that's one I use a lot. And then I just got a new one, a Sol 45, which actually, it's a fixed f3.5.
Okay.
You can tilt it a little bit, and then it has some blades that you can move in to create texture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten to play with that one very much.
Yeah.
I just got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the first photographer that I've met here locally that actually makes use of the Lens Baby system.
I love them.
And it's always seemed like it'd be a really cool set of lenses to add to my own personal kit and experiment with. Most of my experimentation when I've done it has been exploring infrared photography.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting stuff
yeah,
too.
several years ago I took my old 30D camera body and had
Uh-huh.
it sent out and got it converted to infrared. And so when I want to get really creative, you know, that's been the kind of thing I've done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool to invest in the Lens Baby system a bit.
They're fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was saying to my friend the other day when we were out, I said, you know, if I get bored, if I can't find something, if we're out, I can always get my macro lens out,
Yeah.
or I can get one of my Lens Baby lenses out, and then I just start,
Yeah.
you know, hunting.
Now, one of your images was from the Redwoods area. So a thought occurred to me looking at that image is like you go into a scenic area like that, there's just literally an overabundance of scenic options, right? So how do you as a photographer try to like find that scene that you're going to zero in on when you got literally like an overabundance of options before you? You know, because
I know.
because you know I've done a bit of landscape photography in the past, and that's always been like something that I've been confronted with at times. It's like, oh man, where do I start? You know.
Sometimes it's difficult the first time I go someplace because I am overwhelmed by, you know, just the natural beauty of the place, or what, you know, mostly that's what it is. Because
yeah, Mother Nature has an overwhelming presentation to herself.
So I'll just slowly walk and look, and I don't know what it is that speaks to me. But if something catches my eye, then I'll stop and study it a little more.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I guess it's the muse talking or
yeah,
whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to define, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. The oak tree is so close to I-5. I drove by it every day, and every day I drove by it on my way to work. I went, how do I get there to photograph that tree?
Right.
So, yeah.
Now we're down to like the last couple of minutes. What's the general price range on your art?
So if somebody's interested in a small matted, you know, like 4x6, it's matted out a little larger. That's about $45.
Oh, okay.
So it depends. The hibiscus in that frame is $6.85.
Right. Okay.
So it depends on the size of the print. If it's something that I can print off on my own printer, that's great. Then I don't have to pay a printer.
Yeah.
But if it's larger than that, then I have to first check with the printer and see what they're going to charge me. So.
Yeah. And beyond the various custom prints, I mean, do you have like cards and other kinds of?
I don't have cards. I have thought about it, but I haven't pursued it.
And have you got like a website that's?
I do. It's juliebonney.zenfolio.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Julie, I thank you very much for coming on the show and to explore your work. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we reached the end of our show, Rogue Artisans and Crafters, and we want to thank you at home for joining us and learning about our featured artist, Julie Bonney. Wish to thank Julie for agreeing to come on to the show to discuss her life as an artist. And so I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time, Road Valley. And then they break. We wish to thank you for watching Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can watch this program on demand by visiting rvtv.sou.edu. You can also follow our show on Facebook by visiting and liking our official show page. Just search for Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can follow me, David Glamour Dave Nienow, online at my YouTube channel and on Facebook. If you like this show and wish to support me in my show productions at RVTV, you can visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/glamourdave. You can watch this show on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and Thursday evenings at 11:30 p.m. We want to thank our crew who have made it possible to put this program together. Producer and host David Glamour Dave Nienow is winner of the 2018 Southern Oregon Television Awards for Best New Producer and for Best Arts and Culture Show for Rogue Artisans and Crafters.